His entire body is completely drenched. His feet feel like they're swimming in their very own swimming pools. The rain beats down on his head. No coat, no boots, no umbrella. Just Bobby and the rain. It made him feel like a fool, watching across the street as people walk with their umbrellas and their coats and their boots, and he was the one mook walking around in the rain. Scratch that. Swimming, it seemingly, in the rain, because he forgot to be prepared. He was never prepared for anything. Bobby's whole life has been about his unpreparedness. The one day out of the year that he did bring an umbrella, it was as bright as could be, and the weather said it was supposed to be a torrential downpour. It made no sense speed walking to the bus stop. As Bobby looked behind him, he could tell that the bus was not anywhere close. One thing is for sure, he was not looking forward to sitting down on the bus chairs with soggy pants. He felt around his pocket for his cell phone, which was also drenched. He smiles to himself, knowing that he's one of the only people that he knows that still has a Nokia. Nothing can kill those things. One thing's for sure, though, it would not work while it was wet. He would have to take a hairdryer to it. It was very strange that even at this time, even with the weather, that no one else was by the bus stop. Well, I suppose that's all right. It's not like Bobby wants to be seen looking like a wet dog anyway. Using his wet band, he slicks back his hair, using the rain as temporary gel, and sits down on one of the benches. His pants make an odd and uncomfortable squash sound as he takes his seat. After sitting down for about 2 minutes, beginning to freeze due to inactivity, he realizes that no one is on the street, and the rain is coming down even harder. Something seemingly alien makes a weird cry. This isn't new to Bobby. For some reason, every time it's ever rained, he hears this noise. The first time he heard it, it freaked him out, but he came to understand that it was probably some wild cats, and when it rains, that's the only time there's not a lot of activity, or maybe they just hate the rain as much as he does right now. Something was different this time around. Not to mention, he didn't see anyone. And that always made him feel very uncomfortable. Usually when he felt like that, soon after somebody else would appear. Every time it's been raining, he's seen people. People with their umbrellas, people with their coats. But for some reason, this entire street, up and down the block, was completely devoid of human activity, save him, still sitting on the soggy bench waiting for his bus that was nowhere in sight. Not to mention, as Bobby notices, there are no cars in sight either. Just a ghost town basking in its unnatural saturation. Bobby looks down the street one more time, and he thinks he sees something. It's really hard. I mean, visibility is low, and the rain is really pouring down. There are intervals where it lets up a little bit, and then comes down again. He could have sworn he saw some kind of dog, or some creature with hind legs making its way behind a building. Figures. You'd think everything would want to get inside. Maybe that's where everyone is, but it is still very odd to Bobby that there are no cars. He hears the noise again, and his heart skips a beat, because that's the closest he's ever heard it. Every other time he's heard it, people were always around. He never saw what was making the noise. But he had a feeling that if he got up and looked over the bus booth, that he would. That's how close it sounded. It sounded like it was to the right of him. He stood up from the bench. He could feel the liquid pouring down his legs from his pants that are still drenched, by the way. Warily, he looks around the barrier of the bus stop to see what's out there. There's nothing but rain and water making its way into the drains and sewer systems. The hair on his back stands up, and a prickling feeling creeps up his neck as he hears a sound running up behind his head, coming up to him close and fast. He lets out a squeak and whirls around and sees that the noise is actually a lone vehicle stopping at the red light right next to the bus stop. Bobby lets go a breath he didn't know he was even holding. Just seeing this car made him feel at ease. He didn't hear the noise anymore. Then the oddest thing happened. As if he were caught in some kind of eye of the storm or some sort of time dilation or time stopping. Everything just roared back to life. The rain dulled a little bit and suddenly there were cars all over the road. They didn't manifest there, of course, they just drove from wherever. They took the corner into the intersection. The bus made its way there. People were suddenly on the road. The bus stopped right in front of the bus stop and let go all these people, and he heard the noise of human activity that was such a welcome sensation. He had no idea what had happened back then, but it was the eeriest experience he's ever had. Getting off the bus, Bobby walks to his apartment. His clothes are still wet, but they're not drenched anymore. The rain isn't pouring down as hard as it was when he was at the bus station. Bobby looks into the distance, only 4 blocks away, and there's his apartment building. He sighs in relief. For some reason, this has been a very stressful experience for him, being all wet like this and the weirdness that happened earlier. He hears a pitter-pattering behind him, like somebody walking their dog, and he looks behind him and it sees nothing. It stops. The noise that he just heard. Strange. He raises his eyebrows and then shrugs his shoulders and continues walking. Maybe he's just really tired. But he hears it again. The sound of something with more than 2 legs walking behind him. He stops and pretends to check his phone. He can still hear the noise of something shuffling. It gets closer to him and then stops right behind him. But it doesn't come any closer, it just kind of shifts its weight. He walks a little bit into the distance and is actually at this moment really afraid to look behind him. It sounds like some kind of stray animal. He turns around and sees nothing but the rain hitting the floor. No dog, no person, no whatever. Strange. He walks ahead, but he keeps his face in the direction of where he heard the noise. And his eye catches something that makes his blood run cold, colder than the rain and being drenched could ever make him feel. Oh, he sees it. Technically, he doesn't really see it. He sees the outline of it. Something standing there, a little lower than he is, the size of a Saint Bernard. He's convinced he's going crazy, because what he sees behind him, just standing there, is the outline of a creature that he can't see. And yes, this makes no sense, but his eyes are not lying to him, because it's as though a dog or some canine creature should have been standing there and somebody in real life photoshopped it out. That outline is made by the rain falling around it, hitting the surface of it and rolling off of its body. And where the creature should have been standing is just space, just air. An invisible canine creature, completely see-through. Bobby is astounded at what is happening. He doesn't even believe it. He watches as the surface of the animal, coated with the wetness of the rain, shimmers, bobs, and weaves as it shifts its weight. Suddenly, what seems like the ears of the creature, Bobby only knowing this because the water is giving it away, shifts back towards the body of the animal, as though its ears are pointing back. It lowers its head, water dripping from that space just hanging there where no wetness can touch, and a growl is heard. But when Bobby hears the growl, He doesn't just hear it coming from this thing in front of him, he hears it coming from all around him. Bobby has no idea what to do, because the noises he hears all around him tells him that there are more of them, that this thing isn't alone. But you know who is alone? Bobby. Again, that eerie feeling has descended upon him, and as he looks around, his apartment in the distance seemingly farther than ever, he realizes once again there is nobody around. Parked cars with no one in them, no cars riding by on the street. The rain gets heavier and heavier until it becomes hard for Bobby to see what's in front of him, until there is no longer a way to distinguish the noises in the background apart from the deafening downpour.